Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrew here, back for our build review show. It is Tuesday, October 22nd of 2024. And on this show, I bring users builds up live on stream, giving them personalized feedback and advice about things that I think they can do differently in their builds to help them build stronger lineups, submit stronger lineups, and increase their post-contest sim ROIs. We do this show Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. If you ever want to get signed up for a show, all you need to do, drop your DK username in the office hours channel. Let me know what sport and slate you want me to review, and I will add you to the list for the next show. But with that said, we do have a few people here to get started with today, so it should be a good one ahead of NBA tip-off a little bit later. So we're going to be mostly studying football from yesterday's two-game slate, as well as Sunday. First up is going to be Sammy, and we will start there, and then we will get the show rolling. So let me get SaberSim pulled up, and let's start reviewing some lineups. So going back to yesterday's two-game NFL main slate. Let's let this load. All right, so let's go over to the contest tab. All right, contest selection looks good. Now let's pick one of these to review. We'll just go with the quarter jukebox, a little bit bigger. Lineups have loaded, so let's jump over to users. Got Sammy here, 20 lineups, sim ROI. So good news, right? So just taking a peek here, looking at this. Salary looks fine. Duplication looks pretty good. Sim ROI is like 34%. You know, if you can get into like the 50, 60 range, that's like really good. I think 34 is not too far away. And looks like duplication was ended up being pretty important in this contest. So I think that, you know, a two-game slate like this, you're going to have to think about it a little bit more like a showdown in terms of like balancing duplication with ROI, things of that nature. Now, so let's compare his lineups to two other users, right? So if we want to be, you know, a top sim ROI, right, I think we need to do something slightly different. And what that ends up being is we see a user with a similar average dupes. So Sammy has 15, Citizen Cage has 17, right? So really, really close. But Sammy has 128 sim average score. Citizen Cage has 131. Now let's go find a user who has a similar sim average score as Sammy. So we see one person with 128.1. Sammy has 128.14. Sammy has 15 average dupes. This other user has 4 average dupes. So the answer is like, okay, if you want to play 15 average dupes, we need to play lineups a little bit better projected. If you want to play 128 sim average score, we need to play lineups a little more unique. But overall, you know, this is just, you know, I'm trying to give you ideas about how to improve further. I still think that you're doing a good job here with these outcomes. So definitely on the right track, really, really close, and a couple more small tweaks. And I think that you're going to be, you know, one of the top sim ROIers in this contest, right? So good stuff so far. Let's go over to this build and see what you did in here. All right. So what do we see? We see that you brought max salary down. You know, if there was ever a time to do this, I think it's okay to do this on a two-game slate like this, where you're trying to account for duplication. So that's one way of doing it, right? So I think that's an okay adjustment. I don't have any issues with it. Filtering out players who aren't playing so you don't have to view them seems fine. Projection, some rule. I don't think this is bad. I think this is fine to do. And it says you have 2 rules on, but I only see 1. So I'm not sure what the other rule may be there. But I just see the 1. No lineup filters. 2 uniques using average projection and an ROI, aggregate metrics. Those look good. No min or max exposures, mostly projection adjustments. I think these things are fine, making some small tweaks here to projection adjustments. All of these are like within a point. So I think those are good, right? Some small tweaks there are totally cool. No projection adjustments in the players, no stack type changes. Everything else looks pretty good. So all in all, I think you did a really good job here. The only thing I would probably say is that we saw how those average dupes were really, really high. And the one thing that you're doing to account for duplication is lowering this max salary. On a 2-game slate, I would probably go a step further and do something either with some ownership or geo mean to account for duplication further via like a lineup filter. That would probably be what you need in order to lower that duplication to the levels that are appropriate. And if you're using that projection rule, then, that effectively like counters, that assumes the role that like a projection filter would do. So the projection aggregate rule is cool. Coupling that with some duplication efforts in the post build from like lineup filters, and I think you'll be all set. But other than that, really like what I'm seeing here. I think, a couple small tweaks and that'll get you to the top of that list. So good job, Sammy. All right. Good stuff there so far. Now we're going to move on to our second person, which is going to be Pat from Discord. So let's get Pat up, and then we are going to go and look at the Sunday main slate here. So let's hop back to Sunday. Let's get SaberSim back up on the screen. All right. So what do we see? So contest selection looks good, right? Entering less than the max in some of these, that's totally okay. We talk about all that all the time. Taking a shot on a couple of these bigger ones. I think contest selection here looks very, very good. One thing I will note is I know that Pat's on the starter plan, but usually there are sims that run for the afternoon games where the projections do change, like plus or minus. I would still be doing a late swap if you see those. I saw like some players move. I think I saw like Travis Kelce moved. Possibly like some of the running backs for the Rams. So, re-optimizing your lineups based on updated projections for the afternoon games before these games kick off can add value. So consider late swapping your builds before that afternoon window would be one thing that I would recommend here. But as far as that, let's pull up a slate here and dive into some of these results. So let's let this load. Got to give the page a minute or two here. All right. Load it up. So PJ is our guy here. So 50 entries greater than or equal to. Sort by sim ROI. So what we see is that Pat is negative sim ROI in this contest, negative 14%. Now, what can we do about that, right? This is always okay because this gives us room for adjustment. They're using a lot of salary, yet their sim average score is low. That tells me that they're probably making a lot of adjustments to exposures or different things like that. His uniqueness looks good, but we want to get this sim average score higher, probably closer. I think we've said earlier in the week, like 132 to like 136 range has been really good, and he's at 126. So sacrificing a lot of projection here. We got to figure out. So let's jump over to build 3, where these 50 lineups came from. All right. So what do we see? Default, min and max salary, no filters, no rules, no lineup filters, min uniques of 2, Saber score sorting metric. So far, so good. Sort by exposure. No min or max exposures. Nothing in defense. Not a couple in quarterback, just 3. Nothing super significant. Matching ownership on Darnold, half the field on Geno, 3x max on Dalton. 1 more on CJ Stroud. I don't think these are bad at all. These are very, very minor. No adjustments to stack exposures, team stacks. Okay, so pretty hands-off build, I would say. Now, if I were to suggest things to do here, right? First thing that you can do when projection is your sim average scores coming in low is increase your minimum salary. By doing this, you are going to, projection and salary are typically correlated. So you're going to help the builder get to a little bit more projected lineups in general. So I would bump this 500 to start. 49K is good. You could try 49.5 if you want. That's definitely one thing you could do there. Second thing I would do would be to come in here and set a projection filter that says show lineups with projection greater than X, and try and get rid of the bottom 10 to 20% of your lineups. So get 50 to 100 lineups in the trash here and shave out those lowest projected lineups so they don't show up in your set, right? You do those 2 things, you're probably going to get to better sim average score lineups in general. Now, the other thing I would be doing with Saber Score, which it looks like you might be doing here, but I just want to call it out, is try and stay in the top 25 to 50% of your pool, right? So that would be like the top, 100 to 100 and 250. If you're going beyond that, you're potentially playing lineups that don't grade out so well. So I would just be a little bit careful, going down to lineup 393. If you have to go this low in your pool to find a lineup that matches some request that you've made, maybe you need to rethink that, and maybe you need to turn that off and walk that back, right? So consider thinking about, adjusting some of those things. Like I think of this 12% to Darnold. You had to go get a unstacked Sam Darnold lineup, and he's like not a quarterback that is rushing a lot. So, look at these things when submitting your lineups. But let's start with those few changes first. I think that's going to help out a bunch. So adjustment to salary, projection filter, not going past like 200, like trying to stay in the top 100 to 250 lineups as your last lineup in your pool. The higher you could stay, the better. And give that a shot and see if that helps you out. So I thought the contest selection was good. And I'm hoping some minor tweaks can actually go like a really long way here. So let's start there and then circle back with me. Let me know how that goes, and we can review your lineups again. All right. Good one there. Kind of quick one. But it was honestly a pretty hands-off build, and I didn't see anything that was like standing out to me too much. So I think some minor tweaks there are a super good choice. Derek said in the chat, would you guys do a live with a basic program NFL option? If you're asking me if I would review your builds, if you are on the starter plan, absolutely. We just reviewed Pat. He wasn't using contest sims. He was using just Saber Score, and he's on a starter package. So I will review anybody subscribed to Saber Sim here. All right. Next one up is going to be Smitty here. Smitty is another user on the starter plan, and we are going to pull up his lineups for the Sunday early only slate. And Derek asked for showdowns. Yes, we do showdowns, classic slates. We do any sport. You want to look at NHL, MLB showdown for the World Series, whatever you guys want to do. We review it all. All right, let's get Smitty up. Jumping over to the Really like what we're seeing here in terms of contest selection, starting from the ground up and, spreading out their action right across main and early only. Looks like they might have afternoon only here too. So that's all good stuff. All right. So why don't we go look at one of these contests with a lot of entries? So we'll look at this quarter jukebox, but they have 20 lineups. Let's jump over to the users tab. I don't know Smitty's username. I don't know if it's the same as their Discord. Let's check. Yeah, it is the same. Okay, cool. So let's search here, RB1. Okay, RB1 Smitty, 20 lineups. Let me just write some of this stuff down. Okay, 49,875 salary. Neutral ROI, like 0% sim ROI. So always remember too that the contest sim does account for rake. So, if you have $100 in entry fees and the slate starts, most of these contests are raked around like 15%. Your ROI is already, negative 15%. And you got to win that back just to be even in the contest. So we do have rake in the contest sim. So the fact that you are neutral means that, you are above average. And now it's just about winning enough to finally start seeing some profit here, right? So don't feel super bad when you guys see neutral. 0 sim ROI. All unique lineups. That's good. And then we see a 126.9 sim average score. So I think this is probably going to be a little bit similar to the last user that we reviewed here. So 126.9, probably a little low. So we'll figure out what's going on there. They are using a lot of salary. And then let's just take a look at what like the highest sets in the contest are. So let's go 20 lineups, sim ROI. Top sim ROI are still in the, 130, 131 to like 136 range here. So I think that's still where we want to be or where we want to end up, even on an early only slate. So it looks like these lineups came from build 3. So let's go over to build 3, see what's going on here. All right. So looks like Smitty actually lowered minimum salary here. I'm pretty sure it should stay the same for a 7-game slate. Maybe I'm wrong. But this would probably be where I would start, right? Increasing minimum salary back up to 48.5, up to 49K. Also good. Use autofill, use saber score. That looks fine. No minimax exposures in the all tab. Couple in the quarterback, not very many. One thing I would probably say is I think this Joe Burrow one is a little aggressive, at least for me. Like we talk about trying to stay within like 2 to 3x a player's ownership for their exposure, right? So like I would have rather seen the minimum exposure here be like in the 12 to 18% range as opposed to like 4x. So this could just be kind of where some of the lower projected points are coming from. I mean, Joe Burrow is like a lower value quarterback, right? Value is describing point per dollar and, like kind of your bang for your buck for that player in the salary cap format. So he's a little bit lower. So allocating, a fourth of your lineups to him could drive that sim average score down. So just be conscious of that. Nothing in defense. Nothing in the positional tabs. Check stack exposures. All stack types allowed. Couple game stack exposures here. These are like pretty interesting. I would say the Cincinnati Cleveland one is like probably the most interesting. I've looked at this a little bit in some of the reviews that we've done, like studying top players, and they're sometimes game stacking high total games to go and get 25% game stacks to like the one of the lowest projected games total wise on the slate, I would say that that's probably hurting you. So it's like some combination of getting to game stacks for a 42 point total game plus getting to, 25% of like a lower value quarterback is like driving that down. So I would basically be like tracking these things like, hey, are my decisions right? Am I right more than I'm wrong? Am I hurting myself? Am I, shooting myself in the foot with these changes? And, you're like, yeah, you probably got it wrong this week, but like, do you do this every week? You know what I mean? It's like one slate, isn't like too much to be upset about. But if, you're making these changes week in, week out, I would be tracking them separately and seeing like if you are indeed right more than you're wrong. So think about that. From there, that's about it. So a couple things you could do here, right? I'd probably increase minimum salary back up. I might be a little bit looser with some of my really strong stands, or just make sure that I'm being objective in my analysis of why I'm doing them. Is the research sound? And, should I continue to do this? You can mess around with the projection filter as well, right? Adding something to get rid of the lowest projected lineups in your set, trying to stay, well, you're using autofill, so you don't have to think about it as much. I don't even see uniques here. It's kind of weird. All right. So, sorry, got a little bit sidetracked there, but I would like summarizing one more time. Contest selection looked good. Try increasing your minimum salary. Try adding a projection filter, and maybe just be a little bit looser with some of the strong stands that you're taking. But other than that, I would start there, see how things go. Let me know how it is, and let me know if you have any questions, and I'm happy to circle back here. But give that a shot this week. All right. That was our last user who signed up for the Build Review Show today. Reminder to everybody watching, we do this show Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. If you ever want to sign up, drop your DK username in the Office Hours channel. Let me know what sport and slate you want me to review, and I will add you to the list for the next show. But good luck to all of you tonight playing NBA and NHL, and I will see you in the contest lobbies. So until tomorrow, everybody, take care. Thanks. Bye.